Delighted to be joined once again by Ian Irving from the Talk of the Devils podcast. Ian, thanks so much for coming on again.
No problem. Fourth time lucky, JB, right?
I think it's the fourth time. More appearances on an Echo of Glory this season than Jake Robson.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So how's the mood? Your mood of the fans, maybe even the mood of the club?
Yeah, good. I mean, I've set off already, so I'm an hour into my journey to Bilbao, driving all the way there. I'm only messing. I spent a day at the club last week. They had their pre-final media day. Spurs did a similar thing, of course, as well. And I have to say that considering how bad this season has been, it was quite upbeat. There was definitely an upbeatness to the training, listening to the players speak in the mix zone, listening to the head coach speak in his press conference. There's an acceptance that this season has been way, way below what was expected at the start of this season, what the standard should be. I won't repeat what Nusayr Mazraoui described this season as, but I'm sure you can fill in the blanks on that. And I think there's a determination from the team to end with something that can give some joy back to supporters, because universally the players and Ruben Amerin are so appreciative of the way Manchester United fans have dealt with the disappointment of this campaign, the way that they haven't turned on the team, the way that they've stayed behind Ruben Amerin, supported him, continued to sing his name. We've not seen the sort of scenes that you've had at times between Postecoglou and supporters. It's been the opposite of that, actually. So they are determined to try and deliver something. That said, I don't feel like there's huge amounts of confidence from supporters about what's going to happen in Bilbao. I think similar to Spurs, if United were facing a team from another country, there'd be much more confidence than there is now. And the fact that you've already beaten us 3 times this season probably doesn't help that either, I imagine.
It's interesting because Spurs fans, or maybe it's just me, will say, we've beaten you 3 times, we're not beating them again. It's funny how the mindset is depending on what side you're on.
Do you know the last time that Tottenham lost to Manchester United?
2022?
October 2022. Yeah, there's been 6 matches since. It was early Ten Hag versus early-ish Conte. It's probably one of the better performances for United in that first season at home under Erik Ten Hag. But it's a match where Cristiano Ronaldo was an unused substitute and walked out of Old Trafford. And let me tell you, that feels like an absolute lifetime ago. So maybe United are due in that sense. I do feel like the matches this season, obviously the game at Old Trafford in the Premier League, Spurs battered them and were deserving winners. The game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was a lot tighter. The League Cup tie was just chaotic and a battle of 2 goalkeepers trying to outdo one another. So I feel like it'd be a different game. I feel like the injuries that both teams have got, it's been a narrative for both sides all season. They will factor in. I know that United are trying their best to get a couple fit for the final. I think Tottenham have written off already Maddison and Kulusevski. Don't think Lucas Bergval's going to be fit either. You'll know better than me.
There's rumours he's back in light training, might be in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there's always one player who's fighting to be fit for the final, and it's amazing now cup finals can provide miraculous cures to injuries that would keep you out for the season.
What about from
otherwise.
your own De Ligt? Is there news on that?
Yeah, I think Matthijs de Ligt isn't going to make it. I think even if he's fit, the lack of football that he's had over the last month or so means that I think it's unlikely he would make the starting lineup for the match on Wednesday. I think Lenny Yoro's got a chance. United are doing all that they can to get him back. I heard from Diogo Dalot as well, who said that he was doing absolutely everything to be available. But if you consider when United were sort of early under Amerin, the first choice back 3 at times looked like it was going to be Matthijs de Ligt, Lisandro Martinez and Lenny Yoro, and there is a chance that all 3 of those defenders are missing for United. And I do think that, you know, if it ends up being a back line of something like Mazraoui, Maguire and Shaw, you know, that's nowhere near United's best back line. Dominic Solanke seems to be finding a bit of form towards the end of this season. It's been a bit up and down for him, I know. He seems the biggest threat from the outside. I think that's the player that United need to be wary of the most for Spurs. And it's who copes with their injuries better, because, you know, Maddison scored the winner in the league game at Spurs. I think Kulusevski scored in the game at Old Trafford. I think Bergval's started at least one of the games as well. So, you know, whoever manages to be okay despite the injury problems they've got will be the team that wins it, I imagine.
We'll come to the game itself shortly, but you sort of touched on it. In terms of the managers, United a little bit further ahead in their rebuild, whatever that is. I think this Postecoglou will probably go anyway. But if Amerin doesn't win this, is there more pressure, or is this just we're still seeing what happens next season?
No, there's more pressure. There's more pressure. He said that himself. I don't think there is any question that if United don't win the Europa League, their greatest achievement this season is staying in the Premier League. Yeah. Which, considering the points total, is a bit of an achievement. It's a points total that could have relegated them in other seasons. So that is like so bad. I know Spurs are sort of equally bad in a sense. But I think with Amerin, the game against West Ham probably deepened people's concern a little bit. I think the team selection that day, some of the decisions that were made about players who were rested, not rested, the selection was like halfway between a first choice lineup and going for it and a fully rotated team, and players being moved from one position to another almost constantly while they're still trying to get used to the system that he wants to play. I think that result, more than others in recent weeks, has deepened a bit of concern about what the head coach is trying to do. That said, United fans are fed up of churn and change and backing managers and not backing managers. It feels awkwardly like history repeating itself heading into the FA Cup final last year, where there's big question marks over Erik ten Hag. The club back him and then he's gone a few months later. Similar happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when he last got United to the Europa League final in 2021. He was gone by the end of November. Now, at that time, it felt like there was far more momentum behind Solskjaer and he was building towards, far better things. That said, it unravelled pretty quickly for him. So, like Spurs, I know you've not won for a long time, and winning a trophy to Spurs fans feels like the holy grail to an extent. To United fans, it's different. We've seen the team, despite being as poor as they've been, win things in the last couple of years. So, maybe the actual element of winning silverware is not as crucial to United, but undoubtedly Champions League qualification, the budget that it brings, the pull that it brings could be really important in this rebuild, like you say, under Ruben Amerin. The only thing was, though, when he sat in his press conference ahead of the final, he sort of admitted that they do qualify for the Champions League. It makes his job harder for next season because he doesn't feel that the team's ready yet to manage the demands of the Premier League and the Champions League. And he also thinks that the extra training time, the focus in the week to get ready for matches would be handy for him. I don't think you can think like that as United manager, unfortunately.
In terms of the fans, you've sort of touched on it there again. For Spurs, I think most are looking at scratching this 17-year itch. Daniel Levy will say, no, we need to get in the Champions League financially. But for the fans, you've won 2 trophies in the last 2 years. Are the fans more looking like, actually, yeah, we've won a few trophies, it would be nice, but actually, this is about getting back in the Champions League because it's where Man United should be and need to be. But for us, it's like, just got to win this trophy. Oh, great, we're in the Champions League.
I think a lot of fans are just looking forward to a trip to Bilbao, to be honest. I think a European final, no matter what, match-going fans, that is, clearly, are thinking like it would be a fantastic day out in the sunshine in Spain. So don't look at the weather forecast because it's a bit mixed.
Yeah.
It feels like it's improving, so maybe we will get a bit of sunshine. Be ironic leaving Manchester, where it's not rained for about 8 weeks, to then land in Spain, where it is raining. But yeah, I think that the history of the club dictates that United need to win things. I think to be able to salvage a piece of silverware, a European trophy from what has been a wretched season will definitely give a little bit of joy and end, a sour campaign on a positive note. So I think, winning trophies is addictive. Winning trophies is, the history of the club. I think supporters will be torn on it, really. I think some would say that winning the trophy is the important thing, and some would say that getting in the Champions League is the important thing. From my perspective, personally, knowing the issues that United have got at the moment financially, I think Champions League qualification could be transformative to the concerns that United have got with PSR and FFP, because it's been borderline the last couple of years, and the longer that they are out of the Champions League, the harder and harder it will be to be able to spend money on players, to be able to move the club forward when they're having to make decisions week to week about redundancies, about where the line's drawn on certain decisions, and all the stuff about staff not getting tickets for the final, and Ruben Amerin and the players helping out on that, which I think is a huge positive. So we'll see. But from my perspective, Champions League qualification and the finances, it's sad really, isn't it? We shouldn't be talking about football in these terms. It should be about days out in Spain and silverware. But to put your sensible head on, it's absolutely crucial that they get into the elite competition and the money that comes with that again very quickly.
And what about on the pitch? I was looking last night. Amarim's win percentage in the Premier League, 24%. In Europe,
don't worry about that.
Yeah, well, exactly. In Europe, 80%. Probably similar to Postecoglou. Yes, lesser opposition in Europe. You've probably had a slightly tougher run than we have. Have there been different performances in Europe in the Premier League? Is it easy just to say, the teams aren't as good? Because you've lost to probably Europa League style teams in the Premier League. So what's been happening in Europe?
Speak to the players and they say that there's not been much difference in their performance level in Europe and the Premier League. It's just been that they've been able to find a way to win and get the job done in the Europa League. I mean, most infamously, that second leg against Lyon, which is still one of the most remarkable ends to a football match. I say still, it was only a couple of weeks ago. It is and will continue to be one of the most remarkable ends to a football game that I will ever see inside a football ground. It was absolutely ridiculous. It came from nowhere. You'll be thinking back to Lucas Moura and Ajax and everything that went with that. Loads of United fans after that game were saying, right, name on the trophy. And, Lucas Moura is a great example of how your name is not necessarily on the trophy despite having moments like that. Fernando Llorente's goal at the Etihad, Raheem Sterling being
I watched that all this week.
Toenail offside.
I went down that rabbit hole this week. Had a cry.
Yeah,
had a little cry.
Rightly so, get yourself in the mood. yeah. I remember being out for a meal in Manchester city centre, and I lived probably, I don't know, maybe a mile and a half away from the Etihad, and I could hear the roar when Raheem Sterling scored that goal. Picked my phone out, checked the score, couldn't believe what was happening, and obviously then it got ruled out, and the rest is history, as they say. Going back to your question, what even was your question?
Different performances in Europe and Premier League.
Yeah, so I think they've been different. I think the physicality difference has helped the team. United's main issue is the lack of physicality, I think, in the Premier League, certainly in the midfield areas. And it'd be interesting to see if Spurs are missing the players we talked about before. If it's a midfield of something like Bissouma, Sarr and Bentancur, something like that. There is physicality concerns there for United, I would say, in the middle. Probably Casemiro, Ugarte, Bruno Fernandes, Garnacho, maybe the midfield four. So, that's an issue for United. I think, though, when you look at the performances they've had in Europe this season, they've just scored goals. And scoring goals, it makes it sound simple, doesn't it, really? But it's been transformative to the team that they've been able to put the ball in the back of the net, and it just changes the way that you feel. I mean, there's 100 and something sides who entered the Conference League, Europa League and Champions League. And there's only one team unbeaten, and that's Manchester United, which, considering their league position, is remarkable that they've got that record in Europe this season. And long may it continue.
On the pitch, talked about our struggles in midfield. You mentioned United at the back. I think Solanke has dominated United at Bournemouth and at Spurs. He's always seemed to do well against them. My concern is in midfield. No Maddison, no Kulusevski, probably no Bergvall. We don't control that many games, but I don't think we'll have an element of control. Where's it? If United are going to win it, where's it going to be one? For me, it's one player, it's Bruno. But you may say, actually, it's Ahmad, it's Garnacho, it's someone else.
Well, depending on what Postecoglou does with his back line. So you tell me, it looks like there's been tweaks to that in the latter stages of European competition. It doesn't look like they've had that suicidal high line at times, which
he's definitely been more pragmatic. He's been more pragmatic.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I think he'll need to do that, because I think it's likely that Højlund and Garnacho will start as part of United's attack, and despite at times not passing enough to one another, despite at times missing chances that they should score, they do have the ability to make runs and running behind, and if they can time those correctly, it'll sound like a broken record to Tottenham Hotspur fans, because this has been an area where teams have targeted for all of Postecoglou's time, really, since it was worked out in that Chelsea game, I think. So United can win it there, but Bruno is undoubtedly the key. He's United's best player, he's the captain, he's the figurehead for the side, he's the player who stood up to be counted in the Europa League this season, the last-minute winner against Rangers, the hat-trick against Real Sociedad, the pressure penalty against Lyon at home, the pressure penalty against Athletic Club away. And, you know, if there is someone to rely upon to turn up and play the way that he should do in a final, it's Bruno Fernandes. United are still a moments team. I don't think you're going to, you know, if United do win, it won't be because of a complete performance. It will be because they've managed to create opportunities to score goals and have taken them, which has been the story of the Europa League so far. And, you know, the Premier League problems in recent weeks, it's been weird. United fans sort of shrugged their shoulders in recent weeks. It's the Premier League. It doesn't matter where we finish, 13th, 12th or 16th, 17th, whatever, who cares? I think the attitude's shifted a little bit on that because it's been so bad, and watching Wolves and West Ham rock up at Old Trafford and leave with 3 points quite easily has hurt people maybe more than they expected. But yeah, going back to the point, really, Bruno Fernandes is the player to stop for Spurs, undoubtedly.
I think it does matter about where you finish now, because otherwise all you've got left is we finish that season 16th or 17th. If you win it, you can doesn't matter. You don't even talk about it. What about your prediction then? Come on. I think you've predicted maybe a couple of draws and we've been fortunate enough to squeeze 3 wins out, but go on.
If I had to make one prediction, I think Ahmad could have a decisive say on this game. I should have probably mentioned him in the last answer where we were talking about the players who could have a real impact on this football game for Manchester United. He's been an antidote to what's been, you know, such a disappointing campaign. He's been the thing that's linked the fans and the players at the worst moments in this season. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll be an option off the bench for Ruben Amerin, and against tired legs and tired minds, I think he could be decisive. So I'm sorry to come on here and say this, but I think United win, and I think Ahmad has the hand in it.
All right, well, your predictions have been wrong, the others, so we'll stick with that. Ian, we'll let you go. Don't want a traffic warden coming and slapping a ticket on your car there. Listen, enjoy Bilbao, enjoy the day, don't enjoy the evening. But listen, thanks again for coming on, and we'll speak to you next season, however many times we face you.
Yeah, okay. Cheers, mate. Take care.
Thanks, Ian.